Hello, I'm Tom Hathaway. I'm wearing my BA hat to symbolize that anyone in an organization might do business analysis, whether or not they have the job title Business Analyst. So let's talk business analysis. This knowledge nugget introduces a technique for using a data flow diagram, or DFD, to find missing data. It explains what questions to ask and what risks this technique mitigates. This simple technique will help you when you are the one wearing the BA hat. If you invest the time to create a data flow diagram, or DFD, make sure that you're getting the most out of it. You can use the diagram to identify potentially missing data, redundant data, and possible data conflicts. We'd like to introduce a technique called horizontal balancing, or the preservation of data law. This technique can be very useful for identifying data discrepancies, inconsistencies, and conflicts, which are three major contributors to IT project overruns and failures. Based on the rules governing DFDs, a process has to transform data, meaning the data it produces has to be different than the data it consumes. Logic dictates that the data coming out of a process can only come from two possible sources. Either it comes directly via an incoming data flow, or the process creates it using the data it receives. A data flow can come from a data store, another process, or an external entity. Processes need algorithms or business rules to create data. For example, the simple process determine age contains the algorithm age equals current year, from today's date, minus birth year, from the employee's date of birth. Algorithms and business rules in turn need data. Getting the birth year requires an employee ID to select the appropriate employee, which has to either come into the process from an incoming data flow or itself be created by a different algorithm or business rule. In the end, you should account for every data element the process creates and every data element it needs to create the output. For example, using the enter orders process as our example, the physical order form is sent from one internal process to the next, but each process only needs specific data elements. The verify credit process only needs the customer ID and/or customer name to access the customer's data store. Customer ID and customer name are essential. All of the other data elements on the order form are irrelevant to accessing the customer data. I'll demonstrate this concept using the verify credit process from our retail store order entry example. All three outgoing data flows have the word orders in their name because they deal with physical order forms. Here is their order form, which contains the data elements, order date, order number, customer PO number, customer ID, customer name, ship to address, bill to address, item number, item description, unit price, quantity ordered, extended price, desired shipping method, total price. From the sample orders Paul, an order entry clerk, provided, I note that some have a stamp attached payment with a dollar amount handwritten below it. Some have a credit OK stamp, and others have one stating credit check requested. In rifling through those stamped credit check requested, I find several orders in which the customer ID field is blank. I initiate horizontal balancing starting with the norm or most common flow created by the process. According to Paul, that is the credit OK orders data flow going to the validate items process. When I ask Paul to identify the essential data elements on that flow, he replies, the only essential data element in this case would be the credit OK indicator on the order. It just shows that the order is approved for further processing. I understand, but I also think you'd need to know which order that credit OK stamp is on, wouldn't you? Paul replies, That makes sense. I guess we also need the order number, which is assigned when we sort the mail. It's added to each order by whichever of us is sorting the mail. It simply consists of the current date plus a 4-digit running number. The example I have here has order number 141103196 written on it by whoever sorted the mail on November 3, 2014. Based on that information, I add order number, credit OK indicator, beneath the line labeled credit OK orders in parentheses to indicate these are data elements. Okay, the next flow is the credit not OK, orders being sent to the credit department. What is the essential information on that flow? I assume the order number and some kind of a stamp indicating the credit is not OK. Paul: those would be the ones with credit check requested stamped on them. That indicates it is either a new customer, which we indicate by leaving the customer ID blank, or an existing customer who owes us from previous orders. Makes sense? So essential data for the credit NOK orders data flow would be the order number and the check credit requested stamp, right? Does the credit department need any other information to deal with these orders? Sure, they need to know the total price on the order so they can determine whether they should OK the order and send it back to us with the credit OK stamp on it or not. What do they do with credit NOK orders that you send them that they do not approve? You'd have to ask someone in the credit department that. I think they send them over to customer service to contact the customer, since they are the only ones in the company who are allowed direct customer contact. If that's true, that would be between the credit department and customer service, both of whom are out of scope for our project, so we won't worry about those orders. I jot down order number, check credit request indicator, total price below the credit NOK orders label. And I guess the same is true for new customer orders, right? No. An order is from a new customer if we can't match the customer name and bill to from the order with any customers in our customer's file. Actually, if the customer provides a customer ID, we look for that first. And if we find it in our file, we compare the customer name and bill to address from the order to our file. If they match, then we simply look at the customer's credit status and put the respective stamp on the order. If the customer ID on the form is blank, we have to search the alphabetical customer list to try to find the customer. If we have a customer with a matching name, we compare the bill to address on the form with the one in our customer's file. If they match, we fill in the customer ID on the order. If that customer has good credit, we add the credit OK stamp to the order and put it on the stack waiting for the validate items process. If the customer has bad credit, we use the stamp credit check requested and put it on the pile going to the credit department. I add the data elements customer ID, customer name, bill to address, and credit status to the data flow coming from the customer's data store into the verify credit process. In addition, I add the customer name, bill to address, check credit request indicator, and total price below the new customer orders label and ask, does that accurately represent what you just told me? Paul replies, I think so. I don't know whether the credit department needs anything else from us for a new customer order, but what you wrote down makes sense to me. I'm not sure they don't need the ship to address for the customer as well. You might want to check with them to confirm that they do not need anything else, though. I will certainly run this by them to see if this is all the data they need to process either a new customer order or one from a customer with bad credit. For now, we'll assume that the data elements I listed on the diagram are the essential data elements on each flow coming out of the verify credit process. As I explained earlier, each of these data elements has to come into the process on one of the incoming data flows or be created in the process. Coming back to the primary data flow, credit OK orders, you told me that the order number is created in the sort mail process, right? Right, that's the number we have to add to make sure we can keep track of the order. Great. I write order number beneath the data flow labels orders without payment and original order and add, "I assume that this is true whether the order had any payment attached or not, correct?" Paul confirms my assumption. "Furthermore, I understood you earlier to indicate that you always get a customer name and bill to address from the order, and sometimes you also get a customer ID." After Paul confirms, I add those data element names below the order number on both the orders without payment and original order data flows. I also notice that the total price is on the order form, so I add it as a data element to the orders without payment and the original order data flows. Having dealt with all outgoing and incoming flows, I now review the results with Paul. It appears that the only data Verify Credit creates is the Credit OK indicator or the Check Credit Request indicator. Both of them are created based on the contents of the customer's credit status, which is coming out of the customer's file. You find the customer based on either the customer ID or both customer name and bill to address. Both of them are coming in on one of the two order data flows. Is that all correct? Paul agrees. Horizontal balancing can be a hard sell for the one wearing the BA hat. It's important to impress upon the subject matter experts, or SMEs, however, that you are ensuring that the processes on the DFD work right. Missing data stubbornly remains one of the most expensive errors made on IT projects. This simple technique can eliminate that problem early in the project when fixing it is still very cheap. If the problem is not identified until the developers are ready to deliver the solution, the cost of fixing it can increase by orders of magnitude. Thank you for viewing this Knowledge Nugget. Now that you know how to use a data flow diagram to reduce data inconsistencies and conflicts early in the project, make good use of this technique when you are the one wearing the BA hat.